What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you Splinterlands content daily. We also stream over on Twitch at This Is Aftersound, so come by and say hello. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about land. Now, in my last video, I was saying that there is going to be a the land release is going to be in phases, and that's not from me, but that's from the team themselves. And we now know, per the most recent town hall, maybe it was talked about before this, but I only remember hearing it during the last town hall, where the first phase of land is going to be the reveal of your land plot, right? So what kind of land you have, what resources are available on it, if it's occupied or not, all that jazz, right? So everything that we kind of covered here, there's I believe 14 different land types. There's several different land resources that you can get, or natural resources, and then as well as magical resources. I don't know that a land would necessarily have both of these, although maybe, who knows. And then of course there is the rarity as well. So same as we have for the cards: common, rare, epic, and legendary, which will essentially be, I guess, the amount of resources that your land is able to produce regularly. So we are going to find that out. It'll essentially be like a pack opening where you can take the land that you have and essentially retrieve your land claim, right? Or trade in your land claim for a plot and have that plot be shown to you in the way that a pack opening is, so that you know exactly what you have. And for some folks, they may only have one or two plots like myself. And then you got people with regions that have 1,000 plots within them. So that'll be a fun reveal when it happens. But what I want to do in this video was to take a look at what can we expect in terms of the timeline. Now, I don't have any inside information. This is just all complete speculation on my part. But in looking at how things have played out for land in the past couple of years and where things are at right now, I do believe that it will take some time to really implement these major changes. And so, as we know right now, land is probably, the first phase of land is probably 6 months away, because they are holding, and as Matt was saying, the team is holding off on a lot until after the airdrop. The airdrop has just been this big thing that has kind of thrown the economics of the game entirely out the window. If you think about it, the airdrop, and then of course the release of Chaos Legion, was it was the airdrop that caused this huge bubble to happen, right? For DEC specifically. And then obviously as SPS rose with it, as some utility was given, we just hit this massive bubble last year. And had DEC not been pegged in the same way, the economy probably would have grown in a much more sustainable way, but it didn't. And so now there's this waiting game to see how things shake out, and what the prices will be, what the asset values will be, and then who's going to be around, right? Because I think there's a lot of people who have understandably walked away frustrated with where the game is at. But I'm saying that it's understandable that they walked away frustrated, but what I think they were lacking was the perspective to see how long-term this game is, how detrimental, detrimental isn't the right word, but just how impactful and how significant the airdrop ended up being to creating this massive bubble of which they bought the top, right? So it's like if you bought Bitcoin in December of 2017, it sucked for a couple of years until 2021. So it's just one of those things where, it comes in cycles, and we'll have to see where things shake out and who's still around playing the game and a part of the community and economy after the airdrop. So sorry, that was a little bit of an aside. So looking at where land would be, if the airdrop doesn't end for another 4 months, then I would assume that land would come out at some point between the end of the airdrop and the end of the year. So somewhere between August and December. I'm gonna kind of split the difference here just to make things nice and clean, and say that we can probably expect land in about 6 months. I think that land is probably going to be the big reveal or the big major change for Q4. I think Rift Watchers will probably be one of the big changes that they implement for Q3, and then upcoming Modern and Wild, as well as the rewards economy, is the major update that they're going to do for Q2. So, I think even Cryptomancer was talking about this before. They don't want to be throwing too many major changes into the game at once because they need to be able to know what's causing what for troubleshooting reasons, right? They need to be able to know what is going on, what is affecting what, and if you introduce 5 different things at once and change the game so dramatically, it's very difficult to do any kind of troubleshooting or putting fires out or whatever the case is. So Q2 is going to bring us Modern and Wild, and that should hopefully be coming within the next month here by the end of April. Then Q3, I believe, somewhere between July and September, is going to bring us Rift Watchers, which leads me to Land. And I do believe Land is probably going to come sometime in Q4, the earliest of which would be October, which is roughly 6 months from now. So if we can look at that and say, okay, we are going to be able to reveal our land plots in 6 months from now, what does it look like to the rest of this? So if you didn't watch my previous video, and I apologize if I'm kind of skipping over things here, this is going to be a very complex economy and game change that Land is going to bring. So there's going to be 2 elements to this. One is going to be the DeFi elements that are brought and made available on Land with all these different resources, as well as the game is going to change entirely as a second phase is going to be added in, where you'll be able to use the item and spell cards that are minted from the resources you get on Land. So there's 2 big changes there. Now, what I see happening, and again, this is just for me, and just how I see things kind of panning out, is that we are only going to get that first phase of Land in October, right? So 6 months from now, at which point people will know exactly what they have, and they will be able to trade it. They'll be able to sell it. I'm sure certain land prices are going to skyrocket in value because it's like opening a legendary versus some of those that maybe people want to offload or they don't care too much about. And so therefore they want to, be able to diversify out of their holdings when it comes to that. So obviously for me, I have 2 land plots. I'm planning on holding them and seeing what I get. And hopefully I get something good. Hopefully they're not just like common deserts or whatever the worst type of land is. But that's what I see happening in 6 months. From there, I'm going to say that these major changes, even though there is a dedicated team for Land, I don't know that they want to be doing, the major updates in subsequent quarters. So if we look at Land coming out in 6 months for Q4 of 2022, Q1 of 2023 will probably or potentially be Rebellion if Chaos Legion sells out by the end of this year. At which point, yes, it would make sense for the next major set to come out. And if they can stick to these yearly cycles and there's a growing and sufficient player base for that, that would make sense. Which puts us as phase 2 for Land around this time next year. So a whole year away. And what I see for phase 2 of Land is at that point, people will have their land plots. They'll know exactly what they're getting. And at that point, they will be able to start harvesting resources, putting the the monsters and summoners to work. I guess some of them are animals, but some of the summoners and monsters to work on their land and to begin gathering these resources, at which point I believe a lot of the DeFi elements are going to come in, right? So the liquidity pools, potentially the lending that Matt had talked about, the markets, free trade markets that'll be happening, and however that whole economy is set up, I believe that is going to happen at that point. And then all of a sudden, this game is going to have a ton of in-game resources that you could potentially be buying for the currencies that exist within the game, but also externally to the game, right? So DEC, SPS, probably just DEC, because it sounds like DEC is going to be the stable coin of the future, whereas SPS is going to be relegated to more like governance and overall game-related assets where, and again, this is all just how I see it, right? If they can get DEC back to its peg and kind of stable around there, then DEC can be used in these marketplaces to go trade for grain or wood or Ulana seeds or Sparkstone, whatever it is you're looking for. Whereas SPS will be the thing that is used for pack sales and governance and all that other stuff. And that's how they kind of keep the utility separate for both. So 12 months from now, a whole year from now, I still don't see Land and phase 2 being part of this, because if we kind of follow what's happening this year, then whatever the small or the mini edition for Rebellion is, right, just like we had Dice for Untamed, we have Rift Watchers for Chaos Legion, and there's an upcoming unknown or unnamed or unrevealed mini pack that'll be for Rebellion. I can see that coming out in Q3 of 2023. So again, this is about 15 months away, which at that point would mean in Q4 of 2023, a full 18 months from now, is when we would get this mint item and mint spell. I'm sorry, we'd be able to start getting the resources for this, and maybe we'd even be able to start minting and creating the item and spell cards. But at that point in October, we'll say October of 2023, is when we'll actually be able to play them, and the game will go through a major transition at that point to implement that second phase of battle, right? So that you get your first phase, you put all your monsters and your summoner in, and then you get to look at what the battlefield looks like, and then play certain items and spells and all that stuff. Like, that's going to be a major change to the game, and there's no way that I see that happening in less than a year. So, you know, this is kind of the generous time frame that I'm giving to the team. And hopefully, if you've been following along, I broke it out into quarterly chunks, right? So Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and why I see it being that far away. Now, why am I saying this? I'm not trying to FUD. I'm not trying to say anything. People, it's funny. People keep thinking that I'm like so negative. I'm just saying that it takes time to build this. And I know the team is hard at work on it. And I want to be able to level set expectations for people where it's just like, oh my gosh, land, they're going to reveal land. And then all of a sudden they reveal land, and 12, and you know, like, it's going to be a whole year after they reveal land that you'll actually be able to play and do things with land the way that they're talking about right now, right? So that's kind of how I see things. And you know, if it happens sooner, yo, I'm all about it. If it happens sooner, I will be there for it. I have my land plots ready to go. So, you know, I'm all about it. But I do want to be realistic about what we can expect in terms of the time frame and the implementation of something as big as this. This is a very fundamental shift to not just the game economy, but the gameplay. And keep in mind, out of all the play to earn games out there, Splinterlands is still one of the top in terms of the gameplay and you know, the style of play as well, like the complexity of play, right? The only other one up there is Axie, and I'm not going to comment on Axie. Some people say that it's boring or whatever the case is. I'm not following it enough to know, but I do know that Axie can be very repetitive based on what other people say, versus Splinterlands, which can be very repetitive, but also the games are much quicker, and there's a lot of meta changes that happen on a frequent basis as new cards are added in. So in that sense, to make essentially a phase two, like a phase two of battle, and add a whole other level onto the gameplay, which is already one of the most complex in the P2E system, in the P2E space, you know, that's going to take some time to implement, and you want to make sure the team gets it right. We want to make sure the team gets it right, and I'm willing to give them that time. So 18 months, 18, maybe even 24 months, maybe even 2 years from now is where I see land being fully, you know, functional. And I think it's important that we have that kind of time frame and perspective in mind, so that next week, next month, or 2 months from now, when they're talking about land and people are just like, oh, sorry, not next week, but like in like maybe like 6 months from now, when people are like, oh man, land's going to take forever, but like that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Land is going to take some time, and they're already trying to give us what the different phases will be. So that's all I have in this video for you guys. Let me know what you think. If you think things are going to go faster than this or slower than this. Obviously, they have more people on the team now, so they can dedicate more time. But even though they have more people, like I said, to me, it's really about the quarterly releases that they have that they've kind of set up now in terms of like the major updates that they bring to the game, which is why I believe it could take all the way up to 18 months, maybe even 2 years at this point. But I'm here. I'm in it for the long haul. I hope you guys are as well. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I will catch you all in the next video, and I will see you around the game. Take care.